Friday night. Oh no.
All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Old Mood Podcast, episode 41. It is 41. It is 41.
Yes.
Man,
Yep.
I don't know why I even thought about it. It was definitely 40 last week. All right, we're good. I am your host, Blue Squadron, and as always, joined by my two co-hosts here. We'll start with Jay Kuhn this week.
Hi. Hi, my name is Jay Kuhn.
Oh
I'm
my
an
God.
awakening Wisame with 765 gear score. I do a lot of endgame TD content such as Olin's Valley, the dungeons. I'm currently working on getting back into bartering and possibly going for the null. It's the last treasure that I need, and you can find me over.
What's up, YouTube? What's going on? Huh? See here, gotta set up my settings. Let's see. Let's go live. Not sure. Not sure why I have to do this every time. Literally makes no sense. Let's see. Pop out chat. Okay. Alrighty. Make this a little bit smaller. Alright. Let's see. There we go. And then a bit here. And then we'll move this up. Okay. And then we're going to screen. Maybe. Well, I don't know. Did that even do anything? I'm not sure if that did anything there. Let's see. Okay. Blending. Screen. Oh, there it goes. Okay. Didn't do it the one time. All right. So, we're going to do a quick hour here at Centaurs, and then also listen to the Old Moon podcast. Just kind of a chill session for today. Let's see here. All right. Got that on. Let's see. Add
All right.
one of these.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Old Mood Podcast, episode 41. It is 41. It is 41.
Yes.
Man,
Yep.
I don't know why I even thought about it. It was definitely 40 last week. All right, we're good. I am
Okay.
your host, Blue Squadron, and as always, joined by
Make
my
sure
two
that's not too
co-hosts
loud
here.
on here.
We'll start with Jay Kuhn this week.
Hi. Hi, my name is Jay Kuhn.
Oh my God.
Let's
See here.
65 gear score. I do a lot of endgame TD content such as Olin's Valley, the dungeons. I'm currently working on getting back into bartering and possibly going for the null. It's the last treasure that I need.
All right, I think it sounds good.
Twitch.tv/TV before the T.
All right, Jay, there was a moment there where
All
you
right,
paused
so let
abnormally long
me-
after the word hi, and I thought that's all you were going to give us. Like, if I'm joined with Jay Kuhn, you were just, hi.
Hi.
Your little raccoon just
Go
and then
here.
you were done.
Hi.
Okay. And Blonde Bear?
Hi, I'm
Stop.
Blonde Bear.
Stop, bro. There ain't no way.
Still working on my LVI and
Alright.
still working on the Owens piece.
Got
Having a
another
good
into
old time.
here.
Playing Scholar, playing a lot of Scholar. It's very fun.
Really? You really enjoying Scholar?
Okay, 1 hour.
I really am enjoying Scholar. I got the newer
Got
cans on
nothing
here. I bought some weight,
here.
and honestly,
Oh
she's
my
very,
God.
very comfy.
Wait, did you roll the new
Did you
can
know-
to her, or did you just make another?
No, I
new
made
can?
my second one. I was thinking about
Yeah,
making the second one for the
Scholar.
Shy, but I ended up making it on the Scholar. It looks really clean.
Dude, you're crazy.
I
There's
like
no
it.
Did you
shot.
know that the voice actor for Scholar is playing BDO? And,
Yeah.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, I saw that.
And Wutaru invited her to the to the
Playing
Discord
BDO.
that we're all in, and
Yeah.
we actually
Pretty
got to-
cool.
I wasn't there, but they all got to talk to her, and I'm like jealous. What?
That's so cool.
I
Yeah.
know.
That's really cool.
That's crazy. Yeah, he sent me. I forgot he actually sent me her info and stuff. She's streaming on Twitch too sometimes as well,
Oh my
Alright.
God.
which is pretty
That's
cool.
awesome.
I
So,
know, which is
let me
actually
go
pretty
ahead
cool.
and do
I've been having a
60
lot of fun
minute
with
here.
Scholar as well, but
60
I
minutes.
have not been able to play as much,
There we
admittedly,
go.
just
Turn that
because
on. That's on.
I want this pesky flame just won't drop for me like it will for some people. It's driving me nuts.
All
Yo,
right,
like
let's do it.
I'm on a speed run because tonight's the last night of the event. Disclaimer of alert: you have to pull your coffers out tonight, or you lose like
Oh,
5 billion silver. If you haven't already gotten your A-Tour shoes, I know both Jay and Blonde are like, that sounds like a you problem. We got our flames like a month and a half ago. Like, okay, buddy.
We
But
did.
like for the end game players that have not gotten their flames yet, they absolutely have to pull their coffers out tonight. Okay.
Huh.
Let's go to the subject that everybody wants to talk about. There are some big suggestions on the Global Labs for changes to
Boom.
the game, especially in PvP. And for the very first time, really in the history of the game, I think, we are seeing the developers actually ask the player base for feedback based on a set
Pretty
of
cool.
options. They're asking us what we would like the most out of the 3 options. So have you guys caught yourselves up to speed with the various options here and what's going on?
Yeah.
Yes, but for the listeners who haven't, can you summarize it for us?
Yeah. I was gonna be like, Jay, do you know? He's like, that's a PvP thing. That's all you, big dog.
I do.
That's all you, big dog.
Please,
All right.
give me the synopsis.
Mhm. So there are 3 options for the direction that the developers
All right,
want to
3
go
options.
with PvP. The very first option involves basically. It's tough because it's a Korean interpreted thing, but essentially what they're looking at doing is adding more protections to the game, like they were thinking about doing. Not like the first patch necessarily, but like adding a few more protections, but then adding gaps in the protection. Whether there's you lose SA at the end of the skill, or maybe you lose frontal guard. It's not frontal guard at the start of the skill, but it is frontal guard at the end of the skill. So there would be just natural gaps in the protections of your skills. The second option is to scale back the amount of super armors in the game in favor of more frontal guards.
Interesting.
So instead of Succession Berserker, not to point any fingers, but directly at Blonde Bear.
The class that I'm playing.
Succession Berserker, particularly, very super armor heavy class. They would scale back one or two of those super armors and make them frontal guards instead.
Can we talk about Striker too?
Okay.
Striker.
And the third option, and perhaps the most controversial option, is to keep all of the current changes that are on the global labs, which is adding super armors, adding frontal guards, etc.
And a grab.
Adding a grab to every single class in the game, which is kind of a wild suggestion. So
I like it.
I'm curious what your guys' thoughts. I have stronger opinions on this.
Yeah,
I am a PvPer, so I'll save my
it's hard to give every class a grab.
As PvEers,
it's a lot of balancing.
You don't necessarily speak in terms of PvP, but like, how do you guys look at this? Like, obviously, this has an impact on you guys too. Jakun, where are you leaning on this?
So I guess let's I just want to clarify something on method, like the option 1. You mentioned it was like gaps, but I guess how I interpreted it was it's like ignore super armor or ignore forward guard. Can we clarify that? Because
so the very first option also includes that there would be some gaps on your skills, but then there's some wording in there that makes us think that like there's skills that would maybe shoot through a frontal guard.
Yeah,
or hit you out of super armor.
The flame tower.
I think they kind of cool.
The flame tower, how like it hits. Yeah, that's how I interpreted it.
Correct.
And so like to discuss that, like when
I guess it depends on the severity of it
as
though.
As a PvE player, it's like I think it's a little bit frustrating that certain mobs can ignore your protections. Like the boss splits bosses ignore that.
Dude,
the mobs
so
in Ataraxian and bosses in Ataraxian ignore super armor.
So frustrating to super armor and just get CC'd out of it.
A little bit more frustrating. Definitely frustrating if that element was added into a PvP setting.
Yeah.
And then I just want to discuss about like method 3, where everybody is mostly protected and has a grab. This was probably the proposal that got the most polarizing responses from what I've seen, of people really either wanting this change or absolutely despising this change.
Yeah.
For me, as much as I know how powerful grabs are and have been on the receiving end of grabs for many years, in game and IRL, I think in the long run it would create a very difficult game to maybe balance if classes were designed.
Well, it'd just be everyone grabbing each other.
Everyone having a grab, so I'm not the biggest fan of this one. But
then again, it's like it's already like that anyway, because it's already hard to CC people.
From what I understand from the wording, it says we're exchanging super armors for more forward guards. And I think forward guards really reward players who understand good positioning of their character. You're only protected from the front side, obviously, because forward guard. So players who position carefully and have good map awareness will stay protected, but also allows for counterplay where if the opponent has better positioning and map awareness than you do, you will get CC'd from behind. So this also translates into PvE, where if you position yourself correctly, you can have really good survivability in PvE. So I think this proposal has the most impact on PvE. And as a PvE player, so this is the one I'm leaning more towards.
Okay. Yeah, no, I mean, like, I think that the majority of people are kind of leaning towards that second option as well. For similar reasons. Blonde, where's your position on this? I know you have thoughts before the podcast.
Always sucks when you're...
It's kind of complicated, because as someone who just kills
taking
monsters,
away protections.
Like, these options are kind of like, oh, okay, like, not really something that really bothers me or interests me. I guess technically, like, if they're going to rebalance, like, super armors, frontal guards, that would kind of change some grind spots, but then they've adjusted grind spots before when it comes to CC mechanics and resistances and certain stuff like that. I mean, they literally just changed the dynamic of crypt to go from an accuracy needing spot to an AP spot. So I think option 2, if they're only going to give us the 3 options, option 2 is like the only realistic one. But it's kind of tough.
Yeah, I don't know.
I've asked
like there
a
should be a
few
mixture.
different Discords and a bunch of different communities. I don't even know how much I don't think as much, but just people that have perspectives on the game. and a lot of people are wanting a fourth option.
Yeah, I think fourth option is the
There are some
best.
people that like want option 2
Like a
over the 3
hybrid.
options, but there's quite a few people that
We need a
think there should be a
hybrid.
fourth option that I've seen.
Can't get with just
There's
one
some people that
direction.
think that the balancing in general needs to be something more looked at rather than the options. But if I'm
Yeah.
gonna lean in any direction, it's definitely not gonna be 1 or 3. It's probably gonna be number 2. But
Yeah, I don't
know,
really
it's kind
like
of a
either of them.
tough
I think we needed a
pigeonhole.
hybrid for
So
sure.
you mentioned like option 4. Like, what were the option 4s that people were?
Yeah,
that was
good.
kind of the
Option
frustrating
4.
part, is that like their option quote unquote 4 for so many different groups of people means like so many different things. Some people think that they really shouldn't adjust things right now. They should just be adjusting individual outlier classes. And I think that on a large idea, like most people can kind of agree with that.
Yeah, I
When
mean,
you have
a lot of
class
these
that,
classes
like,
should be like
only has
toned
like
down.
protection in their movement, and then you have a lot of these newer classes where they're like fully protected on a lot of their abilities and combos and movement and everything else. I feel like it kind of
Ridiculous.
takes away from
Like, dude,
some other
I
classes.
can't even play a
but
freaking
I'm
warrior,
not
man.
an expert PvPer, so I can't say one way or the other. I just know that this is
Like warrior
is a
compared to
hot
these newer
topic for a lot of people
classes. Like,
because
why would you play a
class
warrior?
design and class, like what the design of the class that PA has and the class identity is inherently tied into the movement or the like the protection of a class too. Like you have some of these crazy fast classes where they need to be like super armor protected through all their movement, and then when they're actually doing something, like they're not protected. Like that's the point, is that their movement. So like I've seen the comments saying that, oh well, if option 2 is taken, then we need to adjust the really really fast classes or stuff like that. That's been the main comment I've seen.
Yeah,
it's kind of tough.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, it's tougher, especially when you don't have necessarily the PvP background. As someone that does have a really big PvP background, especially in like the large scale PvP sense, I would say that my first impressions on
What's
it
your thoughts,
were,
Blue? Let's hear it.
I'll take one of the two options. I think
One of the
option
two.
3 is out of the question. I don't think that you can do option 3, just from a practicality sense.
Yeah, I don't disagree.
Trying to add all of the protections that they were adding to the global labs in the first place, and then adding grabs essentially makes the meta, okay, well,
Just
no
grab.
one is ever going to get CC'd unless it's by a grab.
Yeah.
Right? And so, like, that's not
So
PvP,
terrible.
and that's not fun, so you can't have that. So I think
But again,
the PvP
I
community
feel like that
pretty
is already,
universally
I like
agrees
that with a
option
lot of the
3 is,
classes.
a disaster, and shouldn't be done. However, the idea of adding a grab to every class and then maybe nerfing the mobility down on some of the classes is actually one I kind of like very much. I actually lean. I don't mind if they go with option 1 or option 2. I like option 1 primarily just because, and I'm in the minority on this.
Option 1.
I like option 1. And the majority of the reason I like this is because a skill that could get through a frontal guard is something that would help a tremendous amount of classes. It would make, for example, warrior
class
fightable. You know, it would make a Valkyrie fightable. You can't just stand and block and then just grab
warrior
somebody, right? Like
fightable.
Like it adds more dynamic
Come
to
on,
the
if
game.
you can't beat a
You
warrior,
have to be very
then you're
careful
terrible
with it, because like the block is a very fundamental aspect of a lot of kits. But like, so like if you just made it like one skill that could crash through a frontal guard and get a CC down, but it was like, you know, every like 15 seconds or something, I think would be pretty reasonable to give the classes in the game. It also gives non-grab classes a way to kind of play around.
I think it could be important for non-grab classes.
Like, okay, I have to bait out that skill and I have to use a super armor during it. You know, because it doesn't do any damage, but like also it'll CC me through my frontal guard if I just stand and block like an idiot. So I like that option. I think it actually adds more counterplay to the game. I think it makes it very interesting. I don't like,
but that comment's kind
the
of
idea
also
of
just
keeping
somewhat
the changes that are currently on the global
irrelevant
lab. So
for warrior
I don't
anyway,
like
because
option 1 if
when
they're
you're in
just gonna
block,
keep
it's
what's on the
super
global
armor
labs
and
and then kind
frontal
of add
guard,
these extra
right?
Things to it. Again, I think that like there's just too much protection on the global. I think you just need to scale that back a little bit. Sure, you can add some protections to every class, but like you can't go too crazy with it, and then you got to keep it in bounds when it comes to trying to balance the rest of it. I think the majority of the PvP community likes option 2. I like option 2 as well. The idea of scaling back some of the frontal guards in the game, scaling back some of the super armors in the game and then adding frontal guards is a W idea in most cases.
Yeah,
I do think
scaling back
that there are
super
some
armor,
classes that you're gonna have to like adjust on a special case, like Awakening Witch, for example, who doesn't have any protection against grabs, and then if you change Voltaic to a frontal guard, for example, or like one of her fundamental cores, Thunderstorm, to a frontal guard, the class is dead. Like there's actually just nothing you can do in PvP. I think that the biggest problem with option 2 is that it favors way too much of the flanking assassins. I think that all flanking assassins,
high mobility.
yeah, I think that all flanking assassins in the game benefit far more than all of the other classes in the game. Valkyries, warriors, like any guardians, witches, wizards, anyone that has to come at you from the front is going to have a much harder time with option 2. Anyone that plays a ninja,
Yeah,
a kuno, a megu, a wusa, etc., is probably going to like option 2 because they can just jump. Oh, sweet! A frontal guard is not actually is not actually a protection against a sork.
No.
It is what, like, you know, like what are you supposed to do if you're throwing it? Like everybody knows when you're fighting a melee, you're like, okay, you're waiting for her to try to get behind you, and then you have to try to super armor. Well, if you're taking away a lot of the super armors, well, the flanking assassins just go crazy with
Exactly.
it. So like, I like option 1 more than I like option 2, but I think I'm in the minority on that. I think that a lot of people I've heard like option 2. But as Blonde said, there's a big part of the community that likes an option 4.
Yes.
And I started talking about this when I first went over the Global Lab patches on my in my Global Lab patch note rundown.
I think there has to be an option
actually,
4.
I think that it would be cool to kind of do option 1 or 2, but also do I don't mind adding a grab to every class. I think that would be fun. And then nerfing the mobility on some of the classes.
Yeah.
I think that's totally fun.
I
think
agree.
that gives counterplay to some of the classes that maybe just have not had a grab or a defense. Especially if we're going to go with option 2, you're talking about making any class that
less
has to stand in
protected,
super armor a lot weaker. Like a lot weaker. Like you're talking about making the flanking assassins, most of who have grabs, or can just blink behind you, even if they don't have a grab, you're just making them all stronger. So like, I don't mind giving everyone a grab in that case, or at least giving the classes a grab that didn't maybe benefit as much from the patch. So I'm curious, what are your guys' options on, or what are your guys' thoughts on the grab specifically? If you take away the other part of option 3, I know that Jay, you had stronger feelings about it, but what if they did it in a different way?
So I was actually discussing this idea with my chat about the of changing grabs to be maybe you can, it's like a conditional thing. You can only use it if somebody's stunned or somebody is knocked down. Like a conditional grab, it can only be used as like a follow-up CC rather than a CC catch.
I don't know
And maybe
about
that's a
that.
way to tone
What's the
down
point?
the power of grabs, but still have them relevant as.
Or are you just
a
saying
follow-up
that that's for
from the
everyone?
CC?
Would be a follow-up CC.
This is just like speaking
Right,
from
right.
like a outside point of view.
Follow-up CC
So-
for everyone?
Initial
I'm
problems
assuming?
I see with that, Lon.
Mhm.
Okay, so Succession Lon, I'm just going to throw out, this is the first class that comes to mind. Succession Lon becomes a serious problem there because she can just stand in permanent super armor basically all the time. So not having a way to grab something like that, it would be difficult, right? So like not being able to initiate with a grab on these very heavily super armored classes would be difficult. I think maybe if they did take away a fair amount of the super armors in the game on oppressive classes like Lon and Succession Berserker, I think that maybe yes, you could go forward with grabs being not so initiatory, not so much initiative oriented, so much as just a follow up CC. And I think that honestly, I like that change. I think that it requires a different change for. I think it would require option 2, and then a follow up change to grabs in option 3, which, by the way,
maybe it's all a mix. We can mix a 1, 2, 3 equals 4. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, by the way,
There you
again, makes flanking assassins even better. Like that kind of a change where you can't initiate with grabs. Sorks are like, you bet your sweet bippies we want that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like every flanking assassin in the game is gonna love a change like that. So like I'm worried that the assassin meta is gonna get a little out of control if and when they go with option 2, because I honestly, like I said, the overwhelming majority have said option 2 that I have seen. We have the United Nations tonight, so we will have Korea's PvP scene and Korea's perspective on it, and then I think Armin and Frosty will be in there as well.
What's the buff?
And then myself, and then Bro Bear will be there to translate.
Did I get the
with
buff?
Champion Jason
What was
representing EU. Maybe we might be able to get one more EU rep in there, but like I'll get more of an idea of what the rest of the PvP scene looks like. But I've been kind of peeping around to all the major discords. Most people want option 2. I am concerned that most people that I hear suggesting this play flanking assassins. like They're like, oh yeah, of course, let's just do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I'm like,
get
oh
our
my
class even
God.
more overpowered. Sounds about right.
So yeah, it is a little concerning. But Blonde, how do you feel about adding grabs to other classes as a berserker and somebody that really has been putting the W in Gwab for the last 5 years? How do you feel about everyone being able to do that to you now?
I think that as a berserker that only PVEs and doesn't really PvP or anything, I think that if you're gonna add grabs to all these classes in the game, you inherently have to nerf again their identity. Like there are classes, for example, like a Megu who can like literally teleport and create clones, then teleport back to the clone, and has like really crazy fluid nonstop movement. Imagining as annoying as her movement is with a grab would just be just irritating, super irritating.
It would be.
There's a lot of other
Definitely,
classes,
definitely
for
make sure there's the
example,
identity
like,
for sure.
you know, Musa Mewa's having their crazy movement. Imagine, and already the stub arrow can be kind of annoying, right? But imagine them being able to grab you. I feel like you'd have to inherently nerf the kits. I think that it's just not a realistic option. Like if we're just gonna have like some crazy, just okay, whatever mode, we're just gonna go wild and everybody gets everything and we're just gonna have a crazy old time, sure. But I think that at that point, if you just want to play a class with the grab, then play a class with the grab. If that's what you want, you know, if you're like voting for that option, just play the class with the grab. Like, you know, you can make half the female characters look the same. You can make some of the male characters look the same. Just play the one that has the grab if that's what you're really interested in. Yeah.
So your
I think you just
solution,
have
your solution to grabs is to just play a class with a grab, idiot.
I mean,
That's a solution.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah, I don't think adding a million grabs to the game is the cure, because imagine how much you like a class that maybe doesn't have a grab and you love the movement and all the feel of like, you know, what your class does, and then imagine it getting a grab and then they nerf what makes the class fun, which is
your
the
identity
and the movement,
sure.
the feeling and the flow. That would make me miserable.
Yeah.
I would be so upset. For example, if Zerker didn't have a grab, I would be upset if I had to get a bunch of stuff changed in my class just to get a grab, something that maybe I'm not even interested in, especially if you're not even interested in PvP. Like that would be pretty irritating. I'm not gonna lie.
Well, they did say, to be clear, to preface this, they did say that if they did add grabs to all the classes, they would have to nerf mobility.
Yeah.
On several classes. I mean, so they did talk about scaling the mobility down, especially on like Mewa, Musa, etc.
Yeah. A lot of the feedback that but that would like again take away the whole almost identity or half the identity of the class, which is, I mean, sure, the people that don't play it are like, yeah, I don't care, but the people that do play it are probably gonna be pretty upset.
Like, what do you get?
A lot of the feedback I've seen that
says
it's just like option 1 and 3 are basically the same, and then the only it's just complex. There's so many like further changes that have to change. I think more people are on the total agreement that maybe they should just adjust classes. If we have a current game where, you know, we're riddled with super armor, so the only way to like get someone is a grab, so then the solution is give everyone a grab. Why don't we just adjust super armors, but then, you know, certain high mobility block jump classes will be then stronger because not everybody's sitting in these things, and you know, I think that just adjusting the game. But when I asked a few different Discords their feedback on stuff, everybody was like, well, I think people just don't really remember prior to full super armor BDO what non-super armor BDO game is.
The reason remembers.
Pepperidge Farm remembers. The reason why PA like flew into this like high SA meta is because everybody hated getting CC'd and having a million gaps in all their stuff.
That is
so then they made everyone perma protected based on the feedback. And what's exactly going to happen
but not
after
everyone's
option
perma
2
protected.
is that same thing's going to happen. We're going to go from like, you know, not every class is fully super armored up, right? But a lot of the classes that are going to be PvPing, they're going to be like, wow, this game sucks. I get caught out so much. It's not a skill game anymore. I don't have any skills to use. I can't do anything. And they're going to give that feedback, and then PA is going to want to revert the changes. Then we're back to basically where we already are.
Now, I will say, to be fair, I was there when they changed PvP the first time.
It's a big uproar.
And like added a bunch more protections to the game. And I will say that as a veteran player that's been through all of these changes and all this stuff, I have never seen a greater exodus of PvP players from the game than that patch. Than the patch where they added all of those protections. I saw
It's crazy.
an overwhelming percentage of PvPers just leave the game.
Yeah.
And so like
but
I think returning to a meta where people are less protected might actually bring more PvPers back to the game again.
I think maybe in some cases, I think that there's just too many different
Or you're just
types of
differently
players.
protected.
We have players that have played
Well,
the
and
game since
I wish
launch that
I
have been
wish
through
there
it
was
all.
more
We have players
abilities
that
or more
came like
ways
midway
to
through, and then they've
CC
also came
someone
back
other than
to
like
like
relying on a
new
grab.
players where we've had players that only played in the last 1 to 2
A
to
lot of
3
these other
years that have
classes.
no idea. So they think
Again,
maybe,
this is a
oh, we need to
perspective
remove all
from
this
me
stuff
being a
because like
warrior.
you guys have no idea. It's way better if like it's more skill dependent. But then everybody's then going to complain about desync and gaps, and then that's going to be the main complaint. And we're not going to get any actual changes done to classes. Like I think I mentioned this on the last podcast when we were talking. Like looking at a class dynamic of like, okay, we've got 5 abilities of super armors, we got 1 grab, we've got 2 frontal guards. And then looking at the class identity to adjust maybe those super armors or adjust maybe this or that. But I think regardless, people base their PvP combos around being able to extend their super armors, being able, like that's the whole skill of learning your class and doing those extensions and combos. I think people are always going to be doing whatever they can to,
I agree.
find out how to play their class in a certain way that I think it's just PA really, really has to take a hard bunker stance and just figure out what philosophy they want for the game. Maybe get some opinions from quote unquote expert PvPers and look at that. But
no more
that's
bunker.
But it can't happen. It won't
No
happen.
more bunker. Blonde, they've been living in the bunker. Our biggest problem lately is that they've been sitting in a bunker, refusing to listen to anyone for the last like 2 years. Particularly the worst in the last 6 months. Get the fuck out of the bunker. They're the bunker, dude. I don't want a bunker approach again.
I just feel like rapid changes are going to upset more players and cause more dissonance rather than them looking at what the direction philosophically they want the game to look at and then taking some expert opinions and then just doing the game.
Well, they're asking.
But even this 3-option problem, I've seen people still not liking any of the options and wanting a 4th option, which I agree.
Yeah.
There's always going to be people that want a 4th option. Always.
But it's like, what are we looking for? Are we looking for the majority of players? Are we looking for the majority of the PvPers? Or are we looking for expert opinions? Are we only looking at it from the professional perspective? Like, if you looked at a pie chart of all the decisions of what people want, it's
all over the place.
Not evenly divided, but there's a lot of different slices on what people want.
Yeah.
Depending on what class you play, depending on what content
really is
you do.
is about the class
3
you
or 4
play
different
too.
caps of Node Wars and Sieges, and we have AOS, and we have Open World, and we have RBF, 2 different RBFs. And then we're going to be getting the 15-15 guild.
Actually,
and we're going to get the 300-300. Well, there's what?
Actually, there's 3 different RBFs.
That's right. There's the capped one, isn't there?
There's there's Garmoth.
Nobody?
Oh, there's 4.
Oh, there's
Garmoth, Castle Ruins. He didn't even remember. He's like, oh yeah.
I never even played that one.
No, I mean,
sad.
That nobody plays, right? Like all of
never
this
played
stuff
that one.
needs to be adjusted, and they have to figure out what game mode we're going to balance things on, and then kind of go from there. And I think that also with us having like crazy ping and desync, the game that Korea gets or develops for Korea is never going to be the game that we get. And then when we give them feedback based on how our servers and desync and the game is, it's just going to create this amalgamation product when we get it. I'm just saying.
So one thing I would counter with is that like there is always going to be people that don't agree with what you're doing necessarily, right?
Sure.
And like you said, there always has to be a vision there. But going at a bunkered approach is what they have been doing for years, and I hate this approach. No more bunker. I like that they're asking the PvP community what we want instead of just, we're going to put this on the global labs, and then a week later they're all going to get it regardless of what they say, that's the bunkered approach. I like this approach where they're just asking us for options. Of the options, I think that like I would stray away. Like the best option I would see is honestly, instead of giving every class a grab and having to adjust mobility and all this crazy shit, and again, to serve your point of, all right, well, we don't really want to hurt them, like the identity of some of these classes. I would say, okay, how about we combine option 1 and option 2 then, and we turn super armors into frontal guards, but then you also give some of the classes, not all of the classes necessarily, but some of them that struggle without, grabs, like Awakening Witch, for example, not Sork, because the classes that can get behind frontal guards without too much problem, they don't need this. But classes that can't just get behind a frontal guard, I think you should give them a way to go through it. I think that is more reasonable. So like, no, we don't have a grab, but like we have one skill every 15 seconds that could go through a frontal guard. So if we play it really well and we wait for them to throw out a frontal guard and we use this skill, bam, we get a CC.
Yeah, it's like having a grab
Like
in a way.
I think that makes block classes
A little bit more
fair
strategic.
to play against. I don't know. How do you feel about that, Jay?
So you said you wanted to give Witch a grab. Is that what you said earlier? Because I was like,
no,
thinking,
not necessarily. No. To be clear, not necessarily. I said if we gave,
like,
there's two options here. Like there's two options that I would be okay with outside of just adding option 2 or adding option 1, which we already discussed. But like if you wanted to talk about something like adding grabs or fourth option, I don't mind adding a grab to every class in the game so long as you also adjusted mobility on those classes. Not just, I didn't even mention which, but like when it comes to like this topic here, I'm asking you if there's a way, if we can add option 1 and option 2 together, or some of the classes in the game have a way to break through a frontal guard, like Awakening Witch.
Okay, so that's
so
okay.
Some of the classes in the game get that, but like the classes that are already good at jumping behind frontal guards, Awakening Megu, Sork, Ninja, Kuno, etc. Those classes don't get the ability to break through a frontal guard, but the classes that are already going to struggle with that, yes, you give them the ability to kind of break through once every 15 or so seconds, kind of like a grab, right? Because the grabs all have 15-second cooldowns as well.
Yeah, so actually,
it's like a grab.
This kind of reminds me of when I was like reading. Have you guys read Divios's little
manifesto?
Not little, but his manifesto to. So there was this one line that it really like resonated with me, which was when he mentioned that balance requires like a give and a take, and that when you buff classes, there needs to also be a nerf somewhere, right? I think players need to understand that classes can have their own strengths and weaknesses, and that's okay. And I don't think every class should be strong in every piece of
scenario.
Yeah, because I remember this one discussion I had a long time ago with somebody about Awakening Witch, saying how they couldn't beat a striker that was contesting their spot at Stars End in 2020, and they were saying how Awakening Witch needs buffs to be able to deal with 1v1s better. And I was trying my best to be like supportive and be like, hey, maybe Awakening Witch wasn't built for dueling or 1v1s and performs better in other content. And then I said, like, aren't you doing pretty well in like Node Wars and stuff? And he was like, yeah.
Strikers can't do well at that Node Wars.
So well, there's like a hero complex of like people thinking they should be able to do everything if they have enough skill.
Yeah,
I mean, but that's not the case for the game, and that's okay.
Yeah, it's not the case for the game. You're right.
The problem is,
but it sucks for that person.
Is going to swing too far. We're already at a point. I'm going to use Witch as an example because she's in a bad spot. Where Awakening Witch in large scale PvP is garbage. It's complete fucking garbage. The only thing that makes Awakening Witch good in large scale PvP is protected area and the fact that you can heal. But there is absolutely no reason to play that over the Succession counterpart. Awakening Witch is garbage in large scale PvP. It is it is probably the worst class in the game in AOS. I would rather have a Shy on my team than an Awakening Witch for sure. Like I would rather have an Archer on my team than an Awakening Witch. But like aside from that, and then 1v1s, obviously it's already one of the worst classes in the game. So like this isn't really just being like, well, your class can't be good at everything. Well, it has to be good at something.
That's kind of what I was gonna try to lead into. So maybe because like what you just mentioned before was that she was not doing too hot in all these contents. Maybe they should. The solution might be to lean her more towards something that she can be good at, right? And give her
large
more,
scale, right?
Large scale. Yeah, that's how I personally.
Agree.
Yeah. So maybe that's
what I think
you should do.
Yeah. Well, I think that adding an ability to break. Let's be honest. If Witch gets one ability every 15 seconds, Awakening Witch, and we're taking this as like the example because it's a good example. If you give Awakening Witch the ability to break through a frontal guard every 15 seconds, where does that help her exactly? Does that help her in 1v1s? You're probably still dead. You and I have both played Awakening Witch, right? You're still dead. Like you're there unless you play that absolutely perfectly. There's almost no way that you're going to be able to kill somebody, even if you do land the CC and you're a miracle worker.
It helps you run away.
Right, it helps you run away and swap servers faster. Exactly. But like a skill like that with AoE on it could help you in large scale PvP, CC people and like do the damage that you do, right? So like depending on what skill you put it on, right? let's say you put it on Barrage of Lightning or something like, okay, Barrage of Lightning can now go through frontal guards and bounds people. Okay. Awakening Witch just got a lot better in large scale P, and now Awakening Witch has split teleport. Done. That should have been done forever ago. I'm not sure why Awakening in both specs, Wizard and Witch, can't have a split teleport. But like, part of what you're saying is you're kind of implying that classes need to be handled case by case, and that's absolutely the case here. Like, they're going to have to go through every class case by case and make that class fundamentally good at what it's supposed to be good at. Ninja is not supposed to be good necessarily in large scale PvP. It is dominating in 1v1s, it's dominating in 3v3s. It's not necessarily supposed to be good in large scale PvP. Warrior is exactly the same way, right? So is Tamer. But like, you know, like I think that most of those classes that I mentioned right there already, like, they're actually just good already at some of their stuff. But other classes just, they're not in a good spot. Like Awakening Corsair, it's just not in a super great spot right now.
Yeah, Awakening Corsair is definitely not in a good
Awakening
spot.
Witch is not in a super great spot right now. And there's plenty of other classes that kind of go along with it. Ideally, yeah, I think that they would approach this like, okay, every single class we're gonna look at this differently. But like, if you have to pick one of the options, I would like to pick a hybrid.
Yeah, hybrid I think is the best bet.
Again, because I feel like if you just pick option 2, which is what I've seen a lot of people suggest, you're just flanking assassins get so much better. It's like you're stupid if you're not playing a flanking assassin. You're like an idiot if you're not playing a flanking assassin like that. And it would kill most of the other classes in the game. So like, I think that there needs to be a little bit more of a hybrid option. But I'm curious if you guys had to pick one, which one would you go with? I'm gonna stick with one.
For me it would be 2 because it affects the PvE.
yeah, there it is. He's like, I have more frontal guards in PvE. We're David.
You can't forget about the PvEers, guys. This isn't just a PvP discussion, right? I'm curious. Do you guys like this approach that they're taking with?
I love this.
So I wanted to mention this.
Go ahead.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah, sorry.
It's kind of funny because over the last 2 months on my stream, I've been saying, you know, they really should do what old school RuneScape does, where they kind of just like let people vote. And literally, there must be a PA spy in my stream, because literally I've been saying that and like talking about it, and like it would be cool because then the community feels like they're you know, then
they're valued.
Blame the
their
community
opinion's
because
valued.
they voted on it, and then the community can only blame themselves for voting on the option that curses them in the end, right? And people are satisfied because they feel like they have a voice when they felt for the last few years they haven't had a voice in the community. And so I just kept
I do like the old RuneScape
so funny. I'm like, holy shiz, what are the chances, like Christmas Miracle, they give us an option for high-end PvP changes and what direction you want the game to go, and I was like,
oh, blonde,
it's kind of fucking wild, bro.
This is not a Christmas Miracle. Okay,
this is like what they should be doing.
I think that they should be asked, I mean, unless they're going to hire someone for each individual part of the game, or hire a handful of people that are all experts and get an expert opinion on the game, which they haven't done and doesn't seem like they're going to do. Unless they're going to do that, which doesn't seem like it, yeah, I think they should have to leave it up to a vote or an option or something. I mean, I'm not necessarily saying that always the majority is going to be the right opinion sometimes, because the majority can sometimes be stupid or wrong. But I mean, the only other option is they don't listen to anybody. Nobody feels like they get listened to, and they just keep doing whatever they're going to do for the game. You know what I mean? At least this way people feel like they have some semblance of feedback, or they're being listened to or whatnot, because a lot of people already don't feel that way.
I think one thing that I would like them to improve on is that whenever we get these like, big changes, it's done through global labs, and it's just like this one developer node, and I just feel like they could do a little bit better job like with communication and stuff, and maybe they could bring in players to like help.
Literally,
I feel like the developers could really benefit a lot if they have a proper discussion with people like Divios, who's had like he's been playing for like what he said he played for like over 40,000 hours for the game.
Crazy, man.
Like he knows a lot about PvP from
40,000 hours. Could you imagine?
Thing.
Holy cow.
Okay, I shouldn't have called it a manifesto. That implies that he's fucking... It implies that he's crazy. Okay, never mind.
It's the BDO manifesto.
Does anybody have a copy of it? I'd love to read the whole thing.
It's in the link. I linked it in the outline.
Oh,
Blue, hello. Did you
Oh.
read the outline?
Yeah, I did.
A
Definitely.
manifesto is a public declaration of policy and aims before an
Oh,
election or political party candidate.
I
So,
see, I
like,
see.
literally, it's a manifesto.
Mhm. Yeah, I think
I
if they
actually
bring people
nailed
who
that
are,
then.
like Divya seems like he generally seems very concerned for the game and wants it to be better. And
Yeah.
again, like, um,
I think it's
opinions
a lot
like
of people
his and
like that, yeah.
opinions. Yeah, 100%. And I think the devs could do well with discussing that with the players who play the game a lot.
Well,
Yeah.
they did do this with, like, what, the Arena of Arsha tournament winners, but they asked about individual classes, but
it didn't go over so well. It's just
yeah. Well, I mean, that's the thing. If that's going to be the way they're going to do it, then because I can't remember who told me. Someone said that, like, each class just has, like, was it you, Blue, that told me each class has one guy that works on it?
Yep.
And it just is
Yeah.
that way, and that's the way it goes. So if you're playing a class that isn't getting updated, sorry, bro, you got the short end of the stick. You got the bad dev. Pick a different class and find a dev that loves their class, because that's not,
Yeah, that's
What is
sad.
it? Jay's gonna go to the Corsair guy and be like, "Hey, man, your players are upset. What are you doing, bro? Add some super armors. Add some damage. What are you doing?" And that guy's like, I'm good. And he's splashing in the water on the beach.
More otters. More.
More otters. He's on that island off the coast of Grana, the
bro,
little sand island with the otters.
No, there's a third guy in the room going, but what if we added a Shell Bale fairy skin? And we made it dyeable.
Oh no. Oh no.
I need an adult. So okay, so setting aside like PvP aspect of it, from a PvE or from a PvE perspective, I assume that you guys would like option 2. More frontal guards in PvE is just objectively a win, right?
I mean, 1 and 3 wouldn't really change anything for us, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it does. Oh yeah, they do. One said they were going to add protections to the game, but they were going to add gaps between your skills, and then they were going to add the ability to break through frontal guards for some classes, which that particular part doesn't necessarily affect you.
Right.
But adding protections does. And then number 3 said that they were going to keep the changes that they had on the global app before, which is why everyone's like,
yeah, I didn't look at that because everybody was already hating it so much. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't even read it because so many people were just so violently throwing up about it. I was like, I'm not gonna read that if people are like that.
Yeah, I mean, like,
yeah.
I do think that adding protections across the board is typically a bad idea. Because again, in my experience with the game, like you said, like, oh no, people forget what it was like back then. Well, that's because everybody that fucking hated those changes left, and I say everybody because it was probably half.
It's a good amount
of the current. Like we're at
I was
about
there.
half
I remember it
now of the like the PvPers that used to exist back in the game back then. I mean, there used to be 30 to 35.
I'd say when Awakening Warrior came out,
just T1 guilds.
Class was so
and then
OP.
those changes were pushed through, and
Jeez, all the protections that thing had.
A lot of those T1 guilds, and we didn't see that resurgence again until Tuvala rolled around, and we saw like the seasonal, like kind of upsurgence of players. But like now, this is the life that everybody knows. No one remembers what it was like. Now, I'm not saying it was better back then necessarily, but as far as a PvP perspective, and this is how the developers are looking at it. I think adding more protections means you're going to lose more PvPers, which means Jay gets what he wants. And PvE lords reign supreme.
This is the world that Jay wants.
It is.
No more PvP, just
actually,
PvE.
Okay, this is going to be surprising, but I actually did Arena of Solaire for the first time.
Oh,
the other day.
No, you did not.
I did actually. I joined. So
wow.
Tristan Watara asked me to play with them, and so I was like, oh, okay, maybe this is an opportunity for me to go in. And I have to admit, I had a little bit of fun. Maybe it's because I was queuing up with people that I knew, and they were really good, and they were really excited to teach me. They told me to imagine the other team as a group of golems and do my PvE combo against them.
Oh my gosh.
So, however, some of the golems in the other team started turning into Draconias, and that was a whole different story. But all in all, I actually enjoyed my time there. So,
I think it's fun doing AOS with friends.
Yeah.
It's really fun.
Like this is, again, I don't really get into PvP, but I think when you're there with like friends and you're just having fun, I think that's like the spirit of the spirit of PvP. I don't know, I'm being cringe a bit, but
No,
No,
true.
that-
There's nothing better than
Jay, we're
squatting out with
playing-
your guild, going to a GVG on Arsh or
Mm.
something stupid.
Yeah.
Jay,
the
fighting
boys,
over
family, right?
we're playing a
Sakurai.
massive multiplayer online game where we have
With other
lewd
people.
skins for our fairies. There is nothing that you could say
Yeah,
on this podcast
the
I would
Cabelli.
consider cringe. Do you understand?
Alright.
Like this is the state of the game in 2024, as we
Mhm.
know it. Did you guys get anything big? I wanted to ask. Did you guys get anything like Jay?
Hi.
Anything big?
You got
Big
your
from-
Pandebo, didn't you? For your enhancing.
Oh, yes.
Pendebo.
Sorry to
I
pivot
did
a
get my
little bit.
Pendebo. I also got
Wow.
my Dine and
That's
Dune this year
crazy.
as well. I actually got one extra T10 Pegasus like randomly.
Of course you did.
So I have 4 T10s now. It
Wow.
guys. It
4
might
T10.
seem like
Like,
I'm
why?
boosted, but
It
those
balanced
4
out.
T10s.
If you were there
What?
from the beginning, it balanced out.
I started from the beginning, and
Why would
in
you need
total,
4
I've done
T10s?
153
I don't think you can
T10
sell a
attempts
T10, can
to
you?
get 4 T10s. And so it's still like I'm still like a little
That
bit
just
below
sounds
average.
miserable.
Apparently,
All the
if
damage you have
just
to do.
average it out.
Ugh.
But yeah, I'm
You're
Screw
good.
that.
I
I'll
know
stick with my
the
free
Jay.
T9.
I've been there since the beginning. I remember.
yeah.
So Jay,
Hi,
when you swap, you have the stable swap thing, right?
I do. Yes.
Okay, I just want you to understand that
I
you
should
are
sell
recording.
I should sell
But
my
also,
Doom.
when you have the stable swap thing,
Oh,
if
I
you
should
kill
definitely
one of
sell
your
my
Peggies,
Doom.
does the other Peggy like? Is it still there? Like, can you still swap to it?
The other pay. I don't think you can store 4 in it. You can only store the 3 different ones.
So what if you had 6?
6.
Hey, can you get another one?
I don't think you can get a
6.
second Kragdalos Sanctuary. It's tied to your, you know, the mount icon. When you right click the mount icon, you get like 3 little slots, and you can check it in like literally like a stamp.
Let's see.
And
Is
you
it
can
on
check
all your
it.
characters?
Getting there.
You can actually made in from other characters as long as the horses are all checked in. You can go to another character from a different region and grab the sanctuary with your maid, and then you use the T10s on that.
It's not
other
locked
character
like a
you grabbed it on.
compass between
It's
different
not locked
regions.
like a compass. Yeah, it's not like a treasure. Even though
What?
it's a treasure. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Huh.
So you
That's
just
sick.
Mhm.
I didn't know that.
I didn't know. Why can't you move the compass and the map around? This is bullshit, man.
Listen. History of Dekia is coming out. Everybody's gonna be living like just drowning in compasses soon. Don't worry. It's gonna
Yeah,
be great.
nobody's gonna care.
Everybody's gonna have a compass.
Yeah, not me.
Yeah,
Screw
I'll
that.
probably try Dekia Histria when it comes up. Now, as for these PvP changes, I'm not sure. I think large scale PvP, if you add option 2, large scale PvP becomes. I think their original vision was to try to buff players in large scale PvP and make it easier.
Yeah.
I think if you add option 2, it makes it way harder.
Harder. Yeah.
I think adding just only frontal guards and large scale
Yep.
PvP, guess who benefits?
Yep.
Just
Yeah, it's
the assassins.
Yep.
Yes.
it's going to have to be option 2 with like 50 steps after that, and they have to be on top of it. They cannot just call it a day.
Yeah,
Like,
large
"Oh,
scale would
guys,
definitely be
listen to
much more
the community.
difficult.
We're good. Pat ourselves in the back. Let's walk away."
Unless they like really
Like,
buff
What
frontal
is,
guards.
making this balancing really hard as well is that there's like so many different kinds of gear caps for the different kinds of game modes.
Right, that's what I was saying.
BDO,
Well,
right?
well,
So
that's
it's like, go ahead.
that's like one of the toughest things. What are we looking at when we're balancing that? What
Mhm.
what's the most played thing, right?
I mean,
Siege,
also,
Guild
what's-
Wars,
Well, what's
AOS,
strange to me
Overworld.
is it seemed to me because
Gosh,
I
I
have
keep jumping.
insider trading info that the
Jump.
were just so how do you balance your game? You know what I mean? Like I'm just very casually asking fundamentally core questions that I needed to understand about the game. And it's my understanding that when they told me that they were balancing around primarily AOS.
Lag
I think-
spike.
I feel like AOS is like accessible to both new players, old players, people that want to PvE and don't really care about PvP. Even I'm interested in AOS just because I get to squad up with a few friends.
Well,
it's a lot of fun.
Well, what was strange to me is that then they turn around and they felt like they needed to add all these protections so that players could be better in large scale PvP.
Yeah.
That's very strange. Like, bro,
it's a
pick
tough
one and
criticism. It's
balance
like-
around it. You cannot
it's like-
balance around all 3. You can't.
Yeah, it's kind of
not
hard to do
possible.
that.
When we have a game mode that's played by the hardcore PvPers, quote unquote, and you want everybody to have fun, And having desync causes a lot of problems. So how do we get rid of desync? Well, we can't. Okay, but what if we just give everybody super armor so that they can just kind of continue to use their abilities, not get interrupted? I think that's where their mentality's at. It's like, well, these people then, if they're fully super armored up, they can go in and just do a bunch of stuff and have fun. Like, they don't have to get CC'd and get annoyed by the desync and get caught out. They could just spam all their abilities and have fun. And I'm not gonna lie, I think that's literally all the thought process that's been put into it. I think that's it.
What do you think about so I wanted to add so for gear caps, right? For like there's like T1 nodes, T1, T2 nodes, T3, 4, 5. And they're all set at like different AP levels, but you know, from what I'm understanding of like gear caps, like isn't it supposed to allow players to fight on a more equal ground with like equal stats? And I feel like because of like the different niches of these obscure itemizations that BDO has, like you can stack additional stats using like these niche accessories like chimera earrings, Kai necklaces, more external buffs. It doesn't seem like very equal anymore. So like on one hand, some people like like the different itemization options and you can put more effort into getting an advantage. And then on the other hand, I feel like it kind of defeats the purpose of fighting equally as well.
The different node wars scale so differently that like certain classes and certain node wars feel way better and way worse in certain modes. And then like you have all those accessories and stuff, but I think there's just always going to be a meta. Whatever's like the 0.1% better, I feel like, especially in the NAEU competitive nature, we're going to go that way. Versus KR, it's different. They're like, it's not that they don't care about winning, but they care more about like the fun and doing whatever they like want to play. You know, play Zerkers.
You think about like simplifying like the gear caps, like reducing the amount so that there's not like 15 different kinds of gear caps in the game. Because you know RBF is also has like this weird was it DR buff thingy when you're low? You know what I'm talking about? Like when you're it has like a different rule set for the damage you take in RBF or something, and so it's kind of hard to gauge.
If you take a certain amount of damage, it like reduces it. It like does like a buffering, staggering effect. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, so I don't think that reducing the amount of caps in the game is going to help at all. I think that I like the caps in the game, but I think that like the varying PvP caps makes the game interesting on a fundamental level. I do think that decreasing the amount of stats there are in the game is a W. This is something that Tilt has introduced before to make it easier to understand for players, right? Instead of having evasion, hidden evasion, DR, hidden DR. Nope.
So much, dude. So confusing. So many stats.
And you have DR.
Ridiculous.
Right? You don't have AP and hidden AP. You have AP.
Simplify it.
Right?
Yeah.
Like condensing all of these stats into a number that all players can understand. It's not like players that are like, well, how much gear do I need for orcs? Well, actually, you need to make sure that you have this, this, and this. Like if you have this much PvP damage, you know what I mean? Like, no, dude. Like I don't want to have to explain that.
Yeah.
Condensing all of these caps helps in PvE as well as much as it helps in capped PvP.
Like, can
so
we
that
just
players can understand how to hit those caps, how close they are, and like what they need, right?
Just take a look at all, like, look at all this.
The change that I would like to see is condensing of
this
all
is
the
ridiculous.
Different stat types in the game. There's also
like this
all
makes me want to just
damage.
throw up
when it comes
to
like the game stays essentially in the state that it is, but it makes it easier to digest for a newer player, especially when they're approaching cap PvP like this. So,
should they maybe remove the class modifiers, or do you think it's important to keep that in?
What do you mean, like? Well, I mean, I do think that damage is kind of important. In some case, like. Yeah, you do have to have class modifiers in some cases, but there's ways that you can work it in other aspects of the game instead of making it its own statistic. I think the reason they have it the way they have it now is so that they can adjust it.
Everyone saw that, right?
Yeah.
It kind of, as much as it's annoying that we have another number on another thing that we then have to make sure that they're adjusting. Because when's the last time we had those adjusted? Does anyone remember? But yeah, like I think that should be looked at more often. Looking at like the way the classes interact, but again, how are they getting feedback? Are people just sending clips? Are they watching Node Wars and Sieges? Like, is this like, how do they know if it's a ball versus ball, who's doing what damage, and how they're going to be able to see like, oh, it was definitely this class that was doing a little too much damage? Like, I really don't know how they're going to get their feedback other than literally doing it in practice with their own stuff. But it's just, It's a lot.
It
Apparently, it's a lot
is.
to ask PA to be on top of it.
It's tough.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it is what it is. Okay, we are out of time now on the podcast for
Out
this
of
week. So
time
the very first
already?
podcast of the year. Let's go
Come
closing thoughts.
on. So quick.
Jay, we'll start with you.
Closing thoughts. It's a critical time for BDO. I'm scared, but I think we'll be all right. Let's all hold hands and make it through together. You can hold my hand over at twitch.tv/ChatGPTV before the T.
That was
All
good.
right, and
That was a
Segue?
good one.
it was good.
That was a good one. I like that.
PV ears up big, PvP ears. Well, we'll see, I guess. Good luck, guys.
Oh
Catch me at
my.
twitch.tv/blindbeargrinder for the merchant ring and the LVI.
All right. I
Oh,
love
gosh.
parties. All right.
I love the party.
And I am Blue Squadron. There's always something happening on this channel. Whether it be
Blue's so
on
outnumbered.
YouTube, where there's always
He needs
videos
another
released every
PvPer in
day,
there.
in the Discord, which is always super active, people sitting in voice, very active community there. Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, you name it. As for the podcast itself, you can find us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, so you can listen to us on your way to work. From all of us here at the Old Moon Podcast, have a great rest of your week and a happy New Year.
All right. That was a that was a good episode. Yeah, it was a really good episode. Yeah, I think it's a very interesting time for BDO right now with the potential changes coming up with the PvP aspect. And, I think the number 2 on the list of changes is potentially a decent change, but like Blue said, the assassin classes kind of win big here. Also, PV ears win big here. I think that there needs to be a mixture, some type of hybrid, right, between the 3 or between the 2, or go back to the drawing board and figure something else out. It's tough. It's tough. The newer classes are usually in a pretty good spot, in terms of their mobility, their strength and their damage and everything else. And the older classes typically lack a little bit, except for, I would say, Succession Berserker it's fairly OP, right, in terms of mobility and damage, PvE and movement and all that stuff. But like the class that I've made my whole entire career, Warrior, Awakening Warrior. I just my opinion. Now again, I'm an average warrior, right? But I just feel like when I play other classes, like I just have really no advantage. And sure, I have the grab to use, but the hitbox for the grab is not that great, in my opinion. And then when you add in desync into it, it's just when you rely only on the grab to CC someone, um, just it makes it kind of difficult. Uh, you know, I'd rather not have to rely on a grab, but I don't know. We'll have to see what the global patch notes. I guess they'll come out tonight at midnight tonight, and so I guess we'll get maybe more of an update on the direction that they want to go potentially in, or maybe they'll give us more options. I don't know. We shall see. We shall see. But good podcast as always. The podcast I really miss that I used to just look forward to every Sunday of the week was the Value Pack podcast. Man, Frosty, Reslar, and was it Nyashi? Gosh, dude, that was a good podcast. and they went. They, I think the one podcast they went for like 4 hours. 4 hours. Amazing. But it's kind of sad to see them leave the scene. But at least we have another podcast with another group and really enjoy it. I wish it was a little bit longer than just an hour. I'm not gonna lie. Right? 2, 3 hours would be nice. But good stuff on that. All right, so I have about 2 minutes left for this hour. I'm kind of interested to see how much here I make. I feel like we had that drop rate event not too long ago, and that really inflated the numbers a little bit because right now I'm only at 165. And I know when the drop event was going on, I think it was at like 250 or something like that. So be interested to see kind of the amount here that we get. Turn that off. See. 1 minute, 1 minute, 1 minute. Let's see what we can get in 1 minute. What in the world? Killing them too fast. I hit this every time. Where's it at? Okay, I know I'm messing this up right here. Okay, now of course it's gonna let me walk right across it. There's a little stone there that gets me every single time. Get stuck on that thing every single time. So annoying. Oh, 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 we're almost made an hour. We made an hour, made an hour. Stop. All right. Oh, kill this one last one here. All right, now let's see what we got. So this is what we got here in an hour. Definitely felt like I could have done much better. That's for sure. Because usually I usually average like 25, 26. But I also usually don't do it in the Marnie zone either, so that could maybe be a potential reason as well. Let's see, so let's tally this up here. Calculator. Let's see, 23,866 times that by 21,9. 21. Oh, 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 oh. 21. Oh, come on, stop doing that. 9. So 522 million for that. So pretty good. Pretty good. All right. Keep a tally here on my other phone. Let's see. So 522 million plus. Let's see, we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. So 21 scrolls. 2, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. All right, so 21 scrolls. They're selling for, we'll say 3, 4. 2, 3. So that's times that by, we'll say what, 0.84. So 59 million. 59 million. Okay. Not bad. Let's see, we got 1 centaur. Belt. Just plus 15 million. Plus 15 million. We got 5 of those, so 5 times 3, like 15 million. Okay. Got 18 of those. 18, we'll say 18, 1.2. So let's see here. 18 times 1, 2, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So 21 million. 21 million. Okay. And then 24 of the Capras, we'll say 2, 3 million. Let's see. So 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, times that by 24. That right there is 55 million. 5 million. Okay. And then that's too heavy. Wait, what's too heavy? Weird. Okay. And then let's see, so 81, 129. Let's see here. 81, 81 times 129,000. So about 10 million plus 10 million. Yeah, we'll say about another 9 million. Again, these are all kind of just rough numbers. Let's see. Okay, those are definitely worth something. I just gotta figure out. Let's see. I think it takes what, 15 of these to make something. Let's see here. 15. So we'll say what, 60 million. So we'll just do 60 million. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Divide by like 15. So we'll say 4 million-ish. So we got 8 of those. So 8 times 4 is 32. So about 740 million in an hour. It's pretty good. That is pretty good. All right. Well, I think that's a good spot to end the stream. Awesome. Well, thanks guys for hanging out with me for another late night talk. And I just noticed that this is still going on. So that's awesome. Oh well, just let that go down to 0 anyway. But yeah, thanks guys for tuning in and watching this, and I'll see you next time. Peace.